Morning, everyone. We'll give it a couple of minutes to allow people to join. Okay, let's make a start. So morning, everyone. Welcome to our show and tell for Open Digital Planning. My name is Celia and I'm part of the digital planning team at MHCLG. So before we start, just some general housekeeping. This meeting is being recorded and will be made available on YouTube after the session. If you don't wish to be recorded, please feel free to switch your camera off. I'm just going to pop some housekeeping in the chat as well. Okay, so if you are joining us for the first time, then welcome. This slide contains a quick overview of who we are and why we're here. And today's session is just a chance to showcase some of the developments that the product teams have been working on over the last few weeks. As always, questions and feedback are welcome, so please feel free to raise your hand or pop a message in the chat, and I'll keep an eye on the chat for any questions. So, agenda for today. First of all, we've got bringing AI to PlanX. And then we're going to have a look at Planning Portal to BOPS integration, which will be presented by TerraQuest. And then we've got some updates from the BOPS team. So I will hand over to the team at PlanX to kick us off. Do you want me to keep sharing or do you want to take over?
Yeah, if you can keep sharing, Celia, that'd be great, I think.
Yeah, of course.
If that's okay. Yeah. Hi, all. Nice to see you all. I'm Sylvia. For those who don't know me, I'm the product lead for PlanX. And today will be very much of a sort of a shared presentation between myself, and my colleagues, Daph and Ian. And we'll be talking about introducing AI and AI features to PlanX, going a little bit more in detail into the principle and the vision that are guiding us, but also some new product features that we've introduced and are about to go live. Can you go to the next slide, Celia, please? Thank you. That's working fine. So before sort of starting building new features directly, there's a whole sort of AI rise and AI trend. But before jumping straight into it, we wanted to pause for a second and think about what is the question that we're trying to answer. So what good AI and introduction of good AI and AI models in planning look like? And so we sort of came up with an open framework to really think about what are the key principles, what is the North Star, what is the direction of travel that hopefully will be guiding us, but has been guiding us for what we've done already, but also will be guiding us for the future as well. And I think unsurprisingly for anyone who's sort of heard from us before, there are some very sort of common things that we always say. First and foremost, really, we think AI offers yet another opportunity to move from a world of document-heavy workflows and PDFs to a world of data that we hope is going to be machine readable and is going to be interoperable as much as possible. Again, obviously, talking a lot about transparency and about openness. We really think users should always be aware whenever we're using AI, and this is something we've very much introduced in our set of features that Daph and Ian are gonna talk about. Keeping the humans in the loop. Humans should be in control. So AI can sort of support humans, can support decisions, but ultimately both users, sort of applicants, residents, and officers should be able to review, should be able to adjust, and be ultimately accountable for example, what they're submitting, as we'll see in a minute. And the way we sort of approach AI is very much to start with small experiments and focus on specific tasks, focus on specific capabilities, trying to think what is the problem that we're trying to solve, and starting with the easiest sort of use cases, and then moving onto more complex ones, as we'll see in a second. Celia, if you can go to next slide. After sort of doing the very high level, big picture thinking, we've also been thinking about what are the key set of technical design principles that really underpin everything we do, and the introduction of AI and AI models into PlanX. The first thing that you'll see, and mainly this is for council officers who will be interacting with these features, the first thing you'll see is that we're having an opt-in AI approach to AI, which is very consistent with what we do for PlanX for a variety of other features. So essentially, council officer will be able to opt in by using specific components within the editor. But equally, if you are not keen for your services to be using AI, that's absolutely fine. You can just opt out. And as much as possible, we'll want to give users the same possibility as well. So they'll have the option not to sort of to proceed with whatever choice they had made before. And I mean, we'll see practical examples that'll be more meaningful in a second. All requests that we're sending must match sort of a defined schemas. And also all the kind of responses that we're getting from the AI model that we're querying must also match a predefined schema, or otherwise will fail. And we'll see that at the moment we're really using these AI models as to perform specific tasks. So we're not really using AI as a generic sort of AI assistant or a chatbot or anything like that. And for that reason, very similarly, there will be no memory kept between sort of the different requests. So unlike your ChatGPT, for example, they will have memory of things you've asked it before. At the moment, the way we're using AI, that will not happen, and this is to prevent cross contamination. So every single time we query the AI model, it's going to be a sort of specific separate task. Very similarly, also we're using reputable suppliers in terms of sort of the AI model we're using, and obviously a lot of attention to data privacy as much as possible, and we're just making sure that any of the data or prompts that we're using won't be stored and won't be used to train the model. And today specifically, we want to show two use cases, let's say, of AI within PlanX. One is a feature that is essentially ready to go live probably next week, and the other one is a spike that we've done within the team. So Ian, I'll pass over to you to talk about the first one, which is enhanced project descriptions.
Thank you, Sylvia. Could I have the next slide, please, Celia? One more, please. Okay, yeah, morning, folks. Ian here at OSL. As Sylvia has just mentioned, we're going to talk about two features today that we're using, or well, one of which is ready to go live, one of which is more in progress, but how we're bringing AI into PlanX. And the first of this is project descriptions. So at some point in an application on PlanX, a user will be prompted to enter a project description. And the way we currently handle that is that they enter this description and it's submitted as part of the application. We have identified there's issues with project descriptions, and I guess the real big hitter here is the first point here is that 80% or around 80% of the project descriptions that are submitted as part of applications in PlanX or any planning applications require offset edits. So things around language. We've talked before on show and tells about the whole nature of project descriptions being needed to be submitted in a specific or like a planning language or planning ease, as we've kind of nicknamed it, and that's really hard to kind of educate around within PlanX. So It's basically like a discretionary set of rules around what's expected. And if that description does not meet that, which around 80% of which do not, it triggers an approval loop where applicants are notified about the description and they're given 5 days to approve the changes. So as you can imagine, that creates inefficiencies. There's back and forth from that, potential delays, and another real big hitter here is the final point that it can impact the validation, and that some LPAs will treat changes in project descriptions as grounds for invalidity. So that's something we really want to avoid if possible. Next slide, please, Celia. So here's an example of a real-world project description that was submitted, and what it was rewritten to make it valid. And you can see a lot of the detail has been removed here. So what we're trying to get is from that first description to the result at the bottom without having any kind of feedback loop. Next slide, please. I'll take over for a second to do a quick demo of our current setup with this. So this is the current version of the project description tool that has the AI built into it. We did have a previous version that was tested. It went before user testing, and we've got some results of that and how that's informed this current version that I'll go over after this. But if I copy in a project description, and I've kind of gone over the top and made this kind of very plain English. I need more space in my house, so I want to make it bigger out the back on both levels, flat roof. When I submit that, we're given a loading stage, and the AI model is prompted, and then we have a result with a suggested description of erection of a 2-story rear extension with a flat roof. As part of this, we have a link that says, how does this work? And within this, we outline in very brief details our AI principles that Sylvia went over. I think a real key one here is the description is only used to generate suggestions. We do not share it with third parties. So this is kind of a starter for our principles, but we might add more to this as the product evolves. So you can either go with the recommended suggested description, proceed with the original description, so you're still in control at this point. You can still say, I don't want to use the suggested one, or you can also write a new description, maybe using bits of both of these. If you do decide to go ahead with a description that's been suggested or your original description, you are given the final confirmation step, so you can add anything that's been taken out or add something or amend something that you might think was wrong at this point. And once you submit there, this is the description that will be submitted as part of your application. And I will go on to how that actually happens in data. Let me share the slides again. Back to where I was. So I mentioned we went through a user testing phase with this, and the key things we wanted to test were how do applicants respond to having their project descriptions checked? How do they respond to the rewritten description? Can anything in the user experience be improved? And is there anything else that we've missed? And what we found out was some really interesting results. All but one were positive about AI being used to increase the accuracy and efficiency of their application. All users correctly found that it would help officers. So they understood what we were doing here. The third point, we should be explicit about how we're using data within the AI tool, which has informed our AI principles that Sylvia went over and the information that we give as part of the tool. And finally, that we should iterate the design to allow users to edit more easily. So that this is referring to a previous version that's been updated with that second step that I've just been through. I mentioned the submission. So currently when you submit on PlanX, you have data.proposal.description will be submitted and you'll have a plain text description. As they've gone through the enhanced text import, we've added a further data attribute here called metadata. and this contains any enhancements. So it will say which model has been prompted. In this case, it's Google Gemini 3, the original description that was entered, the enhanced version that was offered, and the user action. So whether they rewrote it, whether they accepted it, or whether they went ahead with their original description. So we're giving the full audit really of what happened within the tool. As Sylvia mentioned, this is very nearly ready to go live. We're expecting it probably next week, and it will be an opt-in service. So we'll be in touch on Slack as to how that will happen. That's it from me. I'll pass over to David. I can keep sharing if you'd like, Dav.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. That's great. Hi, everybody. I'm David, one of the developers here, Open Systems Lab, and I'm going to follow on from Ian and Sylvia here and talk through what we're looking at with documents, which is really the next kind of challenge and the next steps. So we've been working on a discovery phase of this. Next slide, please. And we're going to just talk about what that's looked like, what are some of the open questions, what are the challenges, and what we're going to do with this next. Now, drawings and documents we know, see show and tells previous, are a challenge that we face. On the snapshot on the right here is a snapshot of some recent statistics on issues with some drawings that have been submitted via our platform. And I think we can just generally say that pretty much all applications have some form of uploaded documents with them. And it's important that they're the right type and that they contain the right content. They're labeled as the right type and they contain the right content. Obviously, any issues with validity, this kind of ties back very similarly to what Ian was saying previously. We get into that turn about more time taken for users, more time taken for LPAs, and it can be quite an unsatisfying procedure. And these two kind of broad categories of errors, we can think of them as classification. So users mislabel documents. They may not know what the difference is between a site plan and something else. We do our best within PlanX currently to give them that information and to show them what site plan is, what a good one looks like, what could be wrong, but there's still room for error here. And of course, there's like a kind of a validation problem where maybe something is missing from a file. Again, on the right, this is some examples. For example, a scale bar missing or something else with the content or the wrong label. So there's things that can go wrong within a file as well. So we're trying to look at some of these problems and trying to work out how AI can help us solve this. What tools can we apply? Next slide, please. One of the really exciting things is that there is an open source proof of concept. It's published on GitHub. You can go and have a look at it now. It's been done by the Incubator for AI, known as IAI, who are the Cabinet Office Incubator for AI. And what they've done is they've built a proof of concept, published it as open source. And what it does is that it allows you to ingest documents, so a planning drawing, as an example. It uses a vision language model to essentially read the image as if it would, so processing it and scanning it in. It then can go through these two steps. It does the classification to identify what type of file this is, and then it validates against a simple set of requirements. And again, if you're of interest, or if you're technically minded, or if you know technically minded people, please do have a look. It's fabulous that the government have put this tool out there, and the people at IAI have, we've liaised with them a few times back and forth. They've been really responsive, really helpful, and really engaged in this space, which is just a great thing to see. Next slide, please. So really, really briefly, I'll talk through what they've published and what they've put out there. On the right-hand side here is kind of a very simplified version of the pipeline of data flow. As I described, documents come in, go through a classification step. If a document contains many drawings or many files, it'll be split into parts. It'll cascade into the second validation step, where there are a series of prompts or rules per file applied. So if it's a floor plan, there's a set of rules. If it's a sitemap, there's another set of rules. It then runs through these, results in a valid or an invalid result and a set of reasons. So that's what that does. That's the kind of the engine, I guess, behind the tool. And they've also published two interfaces alongside that. One is a kind of a demo application, which basically has like a REST API, a very simple interface, and ties into this tool. And it just serves as a little kind of, a demo web app of what this could look like for a front-facing user. More excitingly, in my opinion, is this evaluation app they've also published alongside it, which essentially allows not members of the public, it's not intended for production, but it allows internal teams, maybe like ourselves or maybe LPAs could use it. And what they can do is they can test out the prompts, they can test out the system by putting a bunch of files. If they have some sort of ground truth document that says this is a valid site plan, this is an invalid floor plan, and these are the reasons, they can attach those labels, and then they can run this evaluation and see how accurate it is. Based on those results, they could then tweak the prompts, run it again, and iterate and grow in this fashion. And that's a really exciting part. That's a really kind of important part of any tool like this, I would say. That means you continually are able to evaluate and improve and grow. And that's, yeah, like I said, it's really exciting that this is out there, and I think this is a really important part of it. So next slide, please, Ian. What does this mean for us at PlanX and in ODP more widely? Basically, why can't we just use this, take it off the shelf and do it today? I mean, this is a really, really strong foundation. It's been built as a proof of concept, and it's not a production service per se. And there are definitely gaps between what it does today and what a service like PlanX would need. We can break these down broadly into kind of 3 categories. Some are more important than others. Some we don't need to solve now. Some we can kind of come back to. And I think the really important thing here is to just focus on what PlanX does and where it sits in this process. So PlanX is as upstream as it can get almost. We are there in front of the user as they upload a file. And that's a really nice point for interventions. If they upload a file and it's not valid for any of the reasons that we can discern, we can tell them, we can give them that feedback and hopefully try and solve these problems before they get to the back office system. And we can have that, we can just change where the problem space is, I guess, hopefully improving the experience and lessening the time taken to solve many of these problems. So what we need to do is look at how we can solve many of these open questions while still aligning to those technical design principles Sylvia was talking about earlier on. As I said, not all of these are immediate, but there's some of the problems we've been thinking about as part of this discovery phase. Coverage is a really important one. The first item here on the left, as I said, is a proof of concept. Currently, the IAI tool supports 7 document types, but within PlanX and the ODP schema more widely, and other schemas, of course, support many, many more, over 90. So there's a question here about how we go about triaging those. Do we go for most frequent or most failures? What's the sequencing of that looks like? How do we decide which ones to go for? There are other really core questions around product. The second item here, how do we make this feel like a PlanX experience? How do we align with how, as I said, those technical design principles, but also what else we have in PlanX? Other AI integrations, other data integrations, such as planning data. When we go and query external data, what does that user experience look like? Could we mirror that? Should we match that? And then there are other kind of technical considerations, I guess, around scaling up. How do we queue these? How do we process these? And finally, I guess, one area as well is we need to think about configurability. Right now, those document validation rules are hard coded within the code base. We would love to try and at least expose these to the editors within PlanX that understand what's happening. And eventually, maybe much further down the road, it'd be exciting to think what those could look like if they were configurable. And again, we want to tie this into evaluation. If you change something, does it make it better? Does it make it worse? What could that look like? I think these are quite like far flung out questions at this point, but there's some of the questions we've hit as part of this discovery phase. There's a whole lot more I could kind of go on and bore you with, but maybe we'll save that for another internal show and tell at some point. To just give you a flavour of that, though, I think this question around mixed document types is a really challenging one. How do we manage a PDF which may contain many drawings? Some are valid, some are invalid. What does that feedback look like for a user? How do we roll this out? What's an MVP look like, I guess, is a really good question as well. Do we focus on validation? Do we focus on classification? Right now, we ask users to classify. What would that look like? What could that look like? And yeah, this big question around evaluation. How do we know it's working? How do we know it's adding value and actually improving the experience and not just causing more frustration and confusion? So yeah, a whole bunch of questions that hopefully we'll get into. And yeah, next slide, please. And I'll hand over back to you, Sylvia, to sum us up. Thanks.
Thanks, Steph. Yeah, just before sort of finalizing, let's look a little bit at the future and what are next steps. So when it comes to project descriptions that Ian presented, we're just working on the final round of improvements that came from user testing a few weeks ago. So this feature will be in the editor and available to use to all sort of councils that have access to PlanX from next week. What we're also going to do is we're automatically going to add it to the templated services like apply for lawful development certificate and apply for planning permission. So what that means is that as editors, you'll receive a notification, and if you want, you'll be able to opt in or opt out of using this feature. But that will be sort of automatically, it will be added by your service team to your templated services. We'll then work a lot on tracking the impact of these features, particularly via analytics. So we want to know what users do with it. Do they accept the description, the recommended one, the suggested one, or do they go ahead and still use their own? Do they edit it or not? Yeah, all of this very interesting questions. And of course, what impact does this have on the actual back and forth and like time savings for councils? So we'll look into that. When it comes to drawings validation that Dav presented, the discovery phase has now been sort of complete. As Dav was saying, this is mainly really an opportunity for statutory services. And so what we'll do in the next phase is try to answer some of these questions that Dav just surfaced. So mainly deciding on scope, on sequencing, sort of what is the angle that is sort of most helpful for us to look at or to take, and particularly when is it a good time compared to other roadmap priorities to be working on this and to dedicate capacity to this. And then obviously the opportunities are endless. So we keep doing some, we've been starting to do some small experiments in the editor in terms of can we use AI to support us building flows in the editor or editing the content of flows as well. But we're very much open and all ears to learn about other use cases where AI can sort of improve offices and applicants' experience. We want to still sort of start with the questions. So what are the pain points? What are the challenges? And is AI a good tool to fix or mitigate some of those? So yeah, we're open to ideas and also very keen to learn from what offices are doing, because I know many councils are already introducing AI to their own workflows. So we're really keen to learn like how are those working and what else can we do on our side to make your life easier. And I think that's all from us. Thanks, Celia, back to you.
There is a question in the chat from George. In the short term, before editor control functions, how can service owners help improve the LLMs for drawing validation or project descriptions?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one. This is a really good question, and this ties into that question, the topic I was mentioning here about like observability. How can we show and expose this? The most short-term immediate answer would be harking back to what Ian said there, what we attach when we make a submission. So when we send a project description along, we'll include in this metadata, what happened, what the user journey was, did they accept it, did they not, what it was, what we changed it to. So any feedback based on that metadata would be really, really valuable. We don't have a formal process for sending that back to us now, but that might be something that we need to go through maybe in a couple of months when councils have got a few of these submitted. If we can have like set up a review process and we can say, good, bad, good because of X, bad because of Y, we can feed that back in to the process. So that's that's the kind of the short-term answer. And I think that's where we'd probably start off. And again, based on volume, based on how useful that process is, we'd maybe look to formalize that or put some other tools in place that help us work through that. So yeah, in short, when you get a submission, have a look at that metadata, see what happened, see how it was generated, and then please give us feedback based on that.
Excellent, thank you. Any more questions for the PlanX team? So, okay, so I think we're handing over to TerraQuest now to go through the planning portal to BOPS integration work.
Thanks, Celia. Let me just share my screen. Awesome. Can you guys see that?
Yes, we can see that.
Perfect, thank you. So yeah, we've been working with BOPS to integrate their back office system with our submission site, and they're looking to take on what we call our JSON connector. So currently, in fact, all LPAs in England are currently on the XML connector and receive all application data in the XML format. BOPS are looking to adopt our new JSON connector. So I'm quickly take you guys through what that JSON connector is, what it provides, and what transition to the JSON connector looks like. So firstly, what is the JSON connector? So XML connector has been around for a long time. It uses older technology. Now the JSON connector is much more modern technology built on a more current and flexible tech stack. So allowing us to build features into the JSON connector and keeping you guys abreast of these new features is something we're looking into, and I'll go through some of these features in a second. But this is all about helping to improve that local authority experience. It does allow us to come up with the faster legislative. I can never say that word. Legislative updates. So we can now push out new changes to the application questions very quickly without disrupting the back office service, as the XML with that older technology would kind of prevent application submission if we were to introduce new questions. We can now push those questions out, and the back office system can then adapt and absorb those questions whenever they feel they can. So it allows this planning portal to be far more current with the questions we offer. And we offering a new push delivery model, so it sends data to users and kind of removes that need for the back office system to manually pull those packages. It's just a more efficient way of working. So some of the features that we've introduced alongside the JSON connector, and we are looking to introduce more, but I'll label the ones that are currently available. So one we've got is Delta packages. So when, as some of the local authorities are very aware of, when you receive amendments, you obviously receive the whole package again. With the JSON connector, there is now a toggle to say that when you do receive an amended application, we will only send you the actual amendments, the differences between the previous version and the current amended version that they are sending you. That kind of hopefully reduces the time on your end in admin work into kind of finding those differences. Another feature we've got is the notification hub. So if we are aware that, and currently in the submission site, once the application is sent, that's kind of the end of the journey for the user. The notification hub now would allow us to receive decision data or validation decisions or validation data from the local authority, and allows them to display them back to the customer on the submission site. And as a kind of little perk, that allows us to be able to lock off an application as well. So if the local authorities deem the application to be valid, we can then lock off the application from any further amendments being made, as long as we understand that that application is valid or there has been a decision made on it. The third one feature that's currently available is the request an application. So from the back office system, you'll be able to request historic applications. Now you can make a few uses from this, but obviously the key one for us is just safeguarding against any issues which could cause the application to fail when being sent. Then you'll just have a quick and easy way to recall that application if that does happen. Now, there is a transition process. So as I mentioned earlier, all the LPAs in England do currently use the XML connector. We are working with a few of the back office suppliers already, and they work within they will work to integrate their back office system with the JSON connector in our pre-production environment. This is where all initial testing does take place to validate the integration. We then can introduce the JSON connector into the production environment as a secondary partner. So this allows the new back office system to run alongside the XML and receive live applications while not being the primary back office system. Once the back office supplier has validated that they can handle the live data, we can then turn the JSON connector to be the primary connection, and the XML connector can then be decommissioned. So just to kind of give you guys a very quick look at the configuration on the back end and how that works. It's quite simple. So we have one of these dashboards for every LPA currently set up in the system. So this is our test environment, so I won't be breaking anything right now. But what we can do is if we get a JSON connector set up, it will appear here in the dashboard. From here, we can then make any changes. So we can turn on the notification. So that allows that back office system to start receiving the applications. We can also control what package format you guys receive and amendments. So from here, we can choose whether you receive the Delta, the full package, or both. We're aware that we think Delta will probably be the primary chosen one here because we've been getting a lot of feedback about those amendment packages. And then we can, once that's activated, we can then have this running alongside the XML connector. Once we're happy that the JSON connector can handle all the live data, we can simply turn off the old XML, select the new JSON connector to be the primary, and then the XML connector will then get decommissioned, and the JSON connector and the new back office system will be your primary application receiver. So if this is of interest to any LPAs, then we are encouraging the LPAs to reach out to us. If you're interested in integrating, we can help you guys along that journey. We can work with your IT suppliers to kind of get that out there. We are currently working with a few of the suppliers, and as I mentioned, BOPS is one of them. So if you are interested, please just let us know. Are there any questions? Awesome. Cool. I'll hand back over to you, Celia.
Thank you. Thanks, Aaron. I'll just give a couple of minutes, well, a couple more seconds in case anybody has any questions they want to ask. No? Okay, so I think the final thing on the agenda is some updates from the BOPS team. Is anyone from BOPS on the call?
Yes, apologies, I'm just getting everything straight. Let me just find the right slide. So, hi everyone. For those of you I've not met, my name is Tom Gaylor. I am the product lead on BOPS, and we're going to be giving you a few updates today on the work we've been doing to date. So, let me. Can you see that? I should say neighbor letters demo. So the first thing I'm going to do is hand over to my colleague, Andrew, who's going to take us through this and do a little demo for us. Andrew.
Thanks, Tom. I'm Andrew White. I'm CTO on BOPS and the technical lead on BOPS. So acting on some feedback from Gateshead around our kind of like letters, just done some small updates to improve the letter and take advantage of some new features within Notify that they've made. And I'll go through those now. I'll just share my screen. You should be able to see the BOPS kind of like dashboard there, yeah? So if we choose a application and then come down to consultation, and you see it's like a household application. And so one of the things we want to do is add and assign neighbors. And then I'm pretty sure we've generated this before, but you can just drag an area to select the neighbors. They appear down here. Let's just remove too many. And then once you're happy with your address list, you can do add addresses. So we're happy with all our addresses added. You can mark that as complete. And then we go on to the next step where we send letters. And you can select all or select individual ones. So let's go, just take this one. Different types of whether it's a notification or a re-notification about an updated template. In this case, it's initial application. And then we just send letters. That's now gone off to Gov.uk Notify. It gives you a status of printing. And then if I just switch over to my Notify tab and share this, you can see how this has come through into Notify back office. So we can come down here and see that it's come through as a letter. So what we've done is the improvements we've done, we've looked at, there was some bugs around what exactly appeared on there, but we've kind of like gone in and looked at the content in terms of like the headings, getting the legislation there, bringing up the closing date for the consultation as a kind of like primary heading, and making this slightly more readable, and the pagination breaking better. So all the kind of like information about the application, so proposal, reference number, site address, etc., appears on the front page. And then we've got 2 additional pages for how you go about commenting on application. The kind of like new feature we've added here is automatically generating QR code that Notify can do for us. We just supply the URL and it builds this automatically. And then again, we've broken down, these 2 pages are fixed in length, so it should always be 3 pages long, and the pagination is a lot better than whereas before we were kind of like breaking in kind of weird places. So yeah, that's, I'm just going to cancel this because we don't actually want to send this letter. Yes, and then let's make sure it's gone. No, okay, that's the demo of the new letters. I'll send you back to Tom.
Great, thank you very much, Andrew. Yeah, so I've got just a bit of a mixed bag of extra updates on stuff that's happening on BOPS at the moment. So as many of you know, we're moving towards the end of this phase of work on BOPS. So there's quite a lot of sort of tying up loose ends, and you sort of expect to see updates around kind of where things are being sourced up and improved, but probably sort of quite broadly across the product. So final update on sidebars. I know this is something we've talked about a lot, and you saw it in action in the consultation part for BOPS, but I just wanted to review this. So this sort of started with some feedback we had from our users of BOPS around the need to sort of reduce the number of clicks and the kind of increase the speed of interaction with the program. So we had a hack day where we worked together with planning officers, brought everyone together and developed a new pattern for how we'd manage this. We then deployed and iterated that across pre-apps, and that's been live at, Camden particularly been doing a lot of work with pre-apps, so that's been out in the wild for quite a while, and we've been learning and improving on it. We also developed mobile compatibility for this. And then following on from that, we've been deploying it across all application types. So we've, I think, previously shared sort of progress with validation assessment. And as you saw today, finishing up with the consultation section. So that brings us up to date. We've sort of rolled out this improvement across the whole of BOPS, across all the application types, which has been quite some significant work and really allowed us to sort of review and improve a lot of the journeys throughout that. So thanks so much to everyone who's had a role in helping us come up with that, improve that, and then deliver it. Also, an update on pilots and integrations. So Lambeth are onboarding 2 full-time planning officers to use BOPS exclusively. And as we've seen, they've been leading with the planning portal integration with BOPS. This is really exciting. We've also got other councils who have started integrations with Planner portal, one of the great things about BOPS is that we have open documentation. So anyone can work out how to submit an application to us. All they need to do is get permission from the person who owns the service to make that submission. It really reduces the burden on local authorities in managing the integrations. So it's really great to see new partners, new submission tools coming on board with BOPS and making submissions into the system. Camden are continuing their work on the pre-app service, which has been really great. We've got South Gloucestershire and Gateshead who are starting to process cases through PlanX and BOPS as well. So lots of exciting new stuff happening in the pilot space. Yes, as I said, with the integration stuff, we have open documentation. So any provider, existing services, new services can come on board and connect with BOPS. They just need a key to come from the service owner to start submitting cases. Very simple process. We can support with that, but equally it is something that we've done training and supported individual LPAs to manage themselves. So with Planning Portal, we've obviously just had a really great demo of that and showing how that works. On the BOPS side, we're doing some feature development to help manage caseloads. One of the things that would happen with a secondary supplier is that BOPS would receive every case that would come through Planning Portal, as would any existing service or system that you've got as your back office. One of the requests we've had from councils who are keen to use the Planning Portal to BOPS connector is just to be able to select and manage that load coming through so that they haven't got everything twice, but they just have a select number of Planning Portal cases, for example, in BOPS during that phase where it is a secondary supplier. So we're working on that, and hopefully we'll be able to share that with you shortly. And that will really allow, you know, more testing and use of BOPS, but with it without having to go sort of fully in. So sort of helping to ramp up that use. As I said, we've got some integrations live with Planner Portal. So BOPS cases are being received in addition to email submissions as they're currently going, but this is really great for local authorities because it does save them a lot of that time, data entry time at the initial part of the process. So I wanted to take this moment to also thank all the pilot councils. We've had lots of great feedback from sort of in the wild use, and this really helps continue to improve the product. And I wanted just to sort of highlight some of the upcoming changes that we're looking at that have come from feedback that we've had from these pilot councils. So adding additional PDF report exports. Currently, our sort of initial assumption is HTML as it's the most accessible way of sharing data, but we do understand that there is sometimes the need to be able to export this as a PDF. So we're adding in those features, particularly around pre-apps. We're looking at adding improvements for assessing the GPDO legislation. So this is particularly relevant for lawful development certificates and for prior approvals. So that will be coming out shortly. Following on from the great work that's been done by PlanX in collecting document numbers from submission, we're looking at ways that we can automate and support that throughout the back office process, saving more officer time on that end. And then obviously continual sort of bug fixes to increase reliability and robustness across the software. So that is all from me. I will hand back to you, Celia, unless there are any questions.
Thanks, Tom. Do you have any questions or comments? No? Okay, lots of great stuff going on, lots of exciting work. The next public show and tell is on the 20th of May. So yeah, if nobody has anything else that they want to ask or mention while we're together, then I will see you all on the 20th of May. Thanks everyone for presenting and for all the questions and engagement. Yeah, have a great day. Speak to you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks all. Bye.